Welcome, everyone. This is the first of the China-US Women's Foundation financial fitness classes. And I want to a little bit explain who we are and what we're trying to accomplish with this fitness series. The China-US Women's Foundation was founded in 2017 to be a bridge between women in China and the US to help women to thrive. We follow the SAGE initiative, which includes activities around 4 pillars: social health, arts, gender equality, and education. So we try to put programs together that are part of this platform. We founded the foundation in 2017 really from noticing that women in China and the US, and a lot of them were business women, government officials, had so much to share and to network and to help each other, but there really wasn't a platform for communication to achieve this. So we started the foundation, and it has grown, it has expanded. So it showcases that China, US, women together can really make a difference. We have been having bi-weekly Zoom sessions for a few years, but we wanted to make a shift, and because we feel that women need help with their finances as a result of the pandemic. And we want to structure it in such a way that we think of it as going to a fitness class. It takes away a lot of levels of concern, anxiety, and everyone can imagine, okay, I'm going to go to an exercise class because I want to build up my stomach muscles, or I want general fitness and endurance. Everyone has their own particular needs, and you find a class that answers those needs, and hopefully you find community and some pleasure. So the Women's Foundation wants to provide that for our financial situation. And I'm going to explain a little bit about why. We come at all of our programs with a financial awareness. My background is in financial communications. I do have a degree from the London School of Economics, so I've been always comfortable with incorporating a discussion about finance in my considerations. And I've always been struck that not a lot of women are as lucky as I am. And I would like to, through the foundation's work, let other women empower themselves through that kind of discussion. And I want to just give a couple of points about macro and micro situations now. On September 3rd, the August jobs report came out, and it showed that only 11.9% of the new jobs went to women. So that's a crushing drop from the nearly 70% of new jobs that went to women in July. And when we look at what is the reason for that, it seems to be that the Delta variant is once again throwing that wrench into women's lives so that they can't plan childcare, all sorts of things. And that makes employers less willing to venture out and say, okay, we're going to bring women in. Other signs of why women are really falling backwards is like the excitement that Jill Biden was going to go back to work as an educator. Well, it used to be that women did that. Now it's almost like, oh my goodness, she is going back to work. How interesting. So actually, we have faced now a motherhood penalty or pregnancy discrimination that's part of employers feeling that women cannot be depended on to commit to long-term careers. So this causes great stress for women in trying to navigate changes. Then on the micro level, studies show that women are much less likely to express, their concerns about their finances, and they express more lack of confidence in their ability to achieve financial goals. Women are able to answer less than half, 49% of financial literacy questions correctly, compared to 56% of men. Only 12% of women demonstrate a high level of financial knowledge, compared to 27% of men. Confidence is a big issue. Women answered 1/4 of all questions with an "I don't know" response. So that's the problem. And there are real solutions, just by kind of in a fitness class saying, okay, these are my weaknesses. I want to get some help, and let's find some solutions. We, as the Chunyee U.S. Women's Foundation, want to get the dialogue started. And that's why we're so happy to have you with us today for our first fitness class. I hope you have comfortable clothing on and are relaxed and excited. And our two instructors today are, great fitness leaders. I know them personally, and I just feel like you will be in good hands in your first class. So we have Chunyee, Miot, and Susan Nig. And so Chunyee, thank you so much for being here, for your leadership and your goodwill. And I'll hand the mic over to you.
Thank you, Leslie. Susan and I are very honored to use this platform to share some concept and education in the financial field. So I'm a CPA and Susan is financial consultant. We're both with over 10 years in the financial field. We talked to Leslie a lot about what we do. We're very, very big on educating people. Unless you know what's out there, how could you pick the best plan? Unless you know what's out there, how could you pick the best plan? So today is very, very much like a. So yeah, it's just an overview, and then we have many, many more sessions to go into more depth of certain strategies. So like Leslie said, it's just like an exercise thing that we have to keep doing it to strengthen that muscle. We want to develop healthy habits so we can develop that muscle to strengthen our financial situation. So Susan will share some very, very generic concepts today, and it's just really an overview. And afterward, if you want to go into certain areas, because financial is also very, very individualized, right? It's customized. There's no one plan fits all, and everyone's need is different. So if there's certain area that when she's covering the material that you're interested, or you have questions, you have concerns, so please write it down, and then we can provide more information to you. We want to make this very, very useful for everyone. So Susan, take it over.
Great. All right, great. So thank you. My name is Susan Ng. Thank you for having me here today. So here are my slides. I'm gonna put it in. Okay. See my screen okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes.
Great. So we're very excited, like Chunyee said, that we're going to be here to share some saving strategies that are helpful and can enhance your current saving strategies. All right, so creating your success is what we are trying to focus on today. And like Abraham Lincoln said it, the best way to predict your future is to create it, right? Here, let's take a look at some of the statistics at the moment where most Americans are. So do you know that 59% of Americans live, paycheck to paychecks? 44% carry a credit card debt. So if you scan through the, glance through the list here, you see something is missing, right? So here's where most of the families are today. Here's the top 3 areas. One is there's insufficient protections. 2 is they have no savings or does not know how much that they need to save in order to achieve their goals. Or 3, they don't have any strategy for their future. So let me ask everyone, which one is most critical to you? Anyone?
Or you guys can just take memo notes on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So without, financial securities, all this can happen, right? So lack of confidence, stress, and frustrations, a negative impact on families, all that. So I just wanted to throw, to mention that. So what resonates with you, if there's any? Okay. So what is wealth? So here's some belief that is about that fancy lifestyle, like celebrities driving a fancy car, living in a fancy home. So a lot of people had accumulated so much debts in the process of attaining the so-called wealth. Instead of spending money on their needs versus wants. So anybody have any thought on any of the points here? All right, let me move on. So what is financial independence? It isn't about that fancy car that you drive or the fancy home that you live in, right? So it's really about saving more and spending less, living, within one's means, protecting loved ones, reduce or eliminating debt, or save enough emergency fund, like 6 months to a year, right? And having that long-term savings that could protect you for life. Any questions? All right. So we're going to go into the basic financial concepts. So knowing and understanding this basic financial concepts can really help you enjoy financial security. So first one we wanted to focus on is called the Rule of 72, which offers an estimate of the time it will take for your money to double. So since it's related to investment, so we are required to reuse some disclosure. So basically it says that the Rule of 72 is a mathematical concept that approximates the number of years it will take to double the principal at a constant rate of return compounded over time. All figures are for illustrative purpose only and do not reflect the risk, expense, or charges associated with an actual investment. The rate of return of investment fluctuates over time, and as a result, the actual time it will take an investment to double in value cannot be predicted in any certainties. It is unlikely that any one way of return will be sustained over time. So for this example on this slide here, right? So if the return is 2%, it will take 36 years for the money to double. If it's at 4%, it will take 18 years to double. And at 6%, it will take 12 years to double. So let's say your initial investment is $10,000. After 12 years, the amount will be $20,000. And after 24 years, $40,000. After 36 years, $81,000. And after 48 years, it will grow to $164,000. So any questions? All right, let me move on to the next topic. And you could ask the question at the end, all right? So the power of time. So time can be your best friends when you start saving early. Time can also be your worst enemies when you start saving late. So take person A and person B as an example. A started at age 30, B started at age 40. Both, saving for 25 years with $2,500 per year at a 5% rate of return. So at the age of 65, person A will have $78,000 more than B. So it makes a big difference when you start saving early.
Susan, what's a person A and person B? You didn't.
Sorry, just as an example, a person that starts at age 30, saving at age 30, and person B is savings starting at age 40.
10 years difference.
Okay. Right. Now, moving into the interesting time, the impact of taxes. So as a country, prior to pandemics, we are already in a really high national debt, right? Now with several rounds of stimulus package, what are your thoughts about taxes? Is it going to go up or down or about the same? And then also, have you thought about leveraging this tax advantage account to build more wealth? So those are things I just want to throw out there to you have to think. Now, a financial needs analysis can help you answer all these questions here. For example, how do I create a workable saving plans that I could stick to? What goals should I set? Or how much do I need to save to reach these goals? Are there products available that can provide guarantees against loss? What products can allow my money to grow, but still enable me to have access to it without penalty or being taxed? Or how much insurance do I need? And what type of insurance should I consider? So a lot to think about. All those questions can be answered by doing a financial need analysis. And the last slide I wanted to look at, this is the area where we can provide or customize a plan or strategies, right, to help you to achieve your financial goal. So such as cash flows, which is like how much you make and what are your expense, right? And debt management, such as getting a list of all the debt that you have and what way, for example. An emergency fund, where you are, how much you have saved for emergency planning, and proper protections, build wealth or preserve wealth. So what are like the top 2 areas that you would like to learn more about? So this is what I have.
Susan, is that the end of your presentation? Okay,
Yes.
well, thank you so much. Could you then put the slides down and then we can, start the conversation part. I feel like the important thing is that we have now articulated, I think, basic truths that whether it's financial planners or people who have their own personal estates, this is kind of the language that is discussed. And if you're not having this discussion or part of that kind of conversation, that's really the first thing. Even if you don't feel like you have resources or you're kind of in between jobs, at least it can allow you to start thinking in the terms of finance. Before we get into questions and feedback from the audience, I just want to let you know that in addition to this discussion about finance, in the month of October, the Women's Foundation is going to be involved in 2 additional events. One is a careers fair with Asia Society. So if, our members in the fitness class want to say, okay, great, I want to save as soon as I get a good job, we're going to also like pivot to careers and looking at what are the options. And then in October 20th, we're going to talk to one of the founders of Facebook to talk about like tech jobs. So everything goes arm in arm, financial discussion about your personal finances. If you're not in a good position for savings, what's the problem? Maybe you need a different job. We can talk about that. So, we have a 360-degree viewpoint that said, thank you, Susan and Chunyee. And, personally speaking, I like talking about finance, and I was so much into like, my career and everything. Retirement seemed like, oh, that's so far away. I will never have to worry about that. And of course, sooner than later, all of a sudden finances, so retirement is coming up. So, that's where I feel like, personally speaking, my concern is, a good retirement. What can one do? Long-term care. And that's where I would go to you and Chunyee and say, that's my priority. How about some other members of the community who are here today? What's on your mind in terms of like, what do you worry about at night in terms of finances?
Just from the last slide that you had up, Susan, which had those bullet points, the one that stuck out for me was the striving to outpace inflation and reduce taxes.
Very good, Isla. That's important. Thank you for sharing.
Hi, this is Ellen, and similar to Leslie, the retirement, because my husband will be retiring in the next 5 years. I have aging parents, so it's not even just the long-term care potentially for them, because they obviously have assets, but it starts to trigger, that could be an issue for me. And then the fun thing is I'm right in the middle of paying for my son's very expensive college tuition. And he wants to go to graduate school, which is law school. So, and I'd like him to graduate with a minimal amount of debt. So the educational expenses are a huge factor, because as much as we saved, there's then this decision, like how much do you want to dip into your own savings if it was much more money than you originally had anticipated spending?
Chunyee, what are your initial, we're not going to get into particulars, but you're always so good at like, what comes to your mind when Ellen says that? What do you think?
The education piece. Yes. I have a son that's in college, another one is going to college next year, September. So it is very, very real, especially in the law departments, that, and then also medical field, it's very expensive. And honestly, I'm not into like having a lot of tuition bill add on to the kid or to my shoulder, but it's easier said than done. And it's really in the individual case by case to see what's a priority for the family and how much you're really willing to do for the kids. So it's a very, very hard decision, Elaine, it is. But it's case by case, but there are different ways to come up with the money, and every plan, every strategy comes with its consequences. So just explore different options, and depends on your family. We usually work with parents to work on different options to see what's the best situation for the family. But there's no one plan fits all. But it's very, very real. Yeah, I totally understand.
Can I ask Chunyee if there's like a specific set of resources or something? Because so here's the thing, we're actually paying the full amount of my son's very expensive undergraduate education. The issue is that law school in the US will be approximately $300,000.
There with the money.
And yeah, well, with everything. Now, the top tier law schools say it's, if you join us, then our graduates earn $200,000 a year, assuming, this is the big catch, assuming you take a job and get a job in a private law firm. If you go into public sector, you could earn $60,000. So then you're faced with, do you go to the top tier and do you believe that the law school, or do you go to a public institution like we're from New Jersey, so like Rutgers, which won't cost more than $30,000 a year, and they even offer scholarships starting year 2 and 3, so that you graduate with a lot less, but then you run the risk that you might not get employed also. And so I actually don't want him to make, I mean, I want him to make the decision because the debt will be 100% in his name. So are there resources or something that I can direct my son to start educating himself about? Because, you know, as much as I love him and as analytical as he is, he thinks that you can take on, you know, the $300,000 in debt, because after 5 years of earning $200,000 a year in your top tier law firm, he'll be fine.
Wow. Well, I really applaud your kids' confidence, you know. That, you gotta give him credit for that confidence, right? And I think that's very important for us to have confidence. But you have to look at the reality. You know, the reality, you have to show the kids some reality, and you have to have a backup plan. So the resources, it depends on the school, right? They look at the income, they look at your grades and all that. I don't know, financial aid or scholarship. Every school has different resources. So is there any way that he can get any of that, or he just have to come out of pocket because he's in grad school?
Oh, I think it's going, when he graduates from undergrad, it will be 100% out of pocket. No, my question is, are there resources that I can direct him to in terms of educational resources so he can make a more informed decision? Because as much as he trusts my opinion or my husband's, we're the parents, you know, he and it's his debt and his, so I'm just wondering, how do I, and it's no different than if you have aging parents, how do you educate them? So, and I know obviously, and he has no money, so he's not going to be able to talk to you or some other financial planner. And I'm just wondering, as a parent, if there's like a book or there's a website or there's something out there.
But Ellen, you know, like this is an example, and of course I forgive your son that he's male, but you know,
Right.
That's where, you know, and I have a son and a daughter. It's like, they need to start having that conversation, and Chunyee and Susan, you know, will talk to him, and they have kids of their own who are in college. You know, we're big proponents of Gen Zers, and they need to like feel comfortable in having that conversation. You know, you obviously have to get out of the way, and they have to start figuring it out. You know, Rutgers is a good school. Do they want to incur $300,000? Maybe he'll want to work for climate change and not for a big company. Maybe he doesn't want to incur that kind of debt. My daughter, for example, is going to graduate school in public health. She was admitted, she went to Wellesley, and she was admitted to, after teaching, to Columbia and NYU, but she's opted for UCLA with a flexible program that allows her to keep working as a teacher because she doesn't want to incur that burden of debt that comes with the big names. So it's a different reality now. You know, all the things that were our guideposts are kind of off the table now. So, you know, maybe you want to introduce him to them and start the conversation. We'll follow up, but that's the point. I feel good that we're talking about these new realities.
Elaine, I don't have it right now on top of my head, but when I find something, I'll definitely shoot you an email. I understand your question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
How about other people? What's on your mind? Think about you're at a fitness class and something has brought you to be together. What is it that you'd like to work on?
I like that you were saying how you need 3 to 6 months of savings, because especially now, like you don't know. So I have that put aside. So when my car breaks down, I'm not sweating it. I have that extra money, but I don't look at it for anything but emergencies. So that's a good point that was made.
And, also, Colette, it's like, we don't want to just survive. We would like to thrive. We would like to ultimately not have to worry every day about existential questions. It's kind of a human rights issue that you don't have to worry every day about, will you have enough money to cover all your basic expenses so that you can continue to live a basic quality of life issue. So, yes, it sounds like, savings for 6 months, that really is kind of a really basic thing. But, I know you're probably thinking transitional time. Are there new jobs? Is there a next stage? I'm watching closely these budget negotiations, because if Biden is able to put $4 trillion into the economy, I think that will help our children have jobs. It will help maybe more senior women workers find new jobs in climate change. So a lot is riding on that. But, in addition to you thinking like, do I have enough money, God forbid, to survive for 5 months? If in fact it's so much that, then open up the discussion, at least in your mind or among, this protective community. What do I need to even do more than just survive? Can I maybe get a new kind of job? And what would that job be? I think that's not asking too much of life, to at least engage in these kind of conversations, even with yourself, to know enough to say, I'm feeling anxiety. What is the problem? It's this or this and this, and I can ask for help from, a certain group, and they'll, at least have some intelligent feedback from me. That to me is a basic right of women. That's really one of the reasons we started the foundation and did it with China and the US, because we are the most dynamic economies and a lot of change is happening. And, hopefully our foundation can enable us women to thrive as a result of being at these crossroads. So thank you, Colette, for sharing that. And we can, pursue this conversation and hopefully have good results. Anyone else have some thoughts on their minds?
I have a question, and it's kind of along the lines of what Ellen was asking about too. As someone who just graduated from undergrad, I've got a lot of student debt to pay off, and like thinking about possibly going to grad school sometime in the near future, and that would probably mean more debt. What would be like the first thing that you would say to someone, not just like a specific piece of advice, but I guess what should be a priority when thinking about making a big decision like that? Or like what's a question that someone should be asking when looking at like taking on something like going to grad school, which might be a lot more debt, or like making another big financial decision like that?
For me, I would say, what do you ultimately want to do, Hannah? What's your ultimate goal in your career path, on your career path? Does you have to go through all this study to get to where you want to be? If you just want to be, want to have your own business, be a business owner, make an impact, then probably you have to learn hands-on early and start from the ground and then go up and be a business owner. But if you want to be a researcher, want to invent something, then probably you have to go to those high, those career path, school to get those degree and do a research lab. So I think ultimately, I would tell young people, look inside yourself and search your dream and your goals, where you want to be, at the end and see there's a path that's more, that you can take that will put you, don't put yourself in more debt, but more productive. You know, it's more practical, I should say, more practical. Not just a degree, not like a master's degree or another degree, really very, very practical. Because when you look around successful people, there are a lot of people very well educated, right? But there are also people not that have that many titles, but they're very, very successful. They're also making an impact. So I don't want people to just going after the title or after those acronyms, but really look at what you want to do in your life and how you're going to accomplish that without getting into more and more debts.
I'd like to add to that comment. I think it's very wise, but we in July did a Gen Z Global Forum that was focused on education and moving into careers. And we had a thought leader from Wellesley College who I thought it was really, and it's kind of a buzzword for me, that the goal for lifelong learning and for, you know, a successful career really should be focused around curiosity. What are you interested in? Because there's no clear path to, you know, successful, you know, outcomes because everything is changing so rapidly. The one thing that will see you through is curiosity. So without saying, okay, I'm going to go to graduate school and then I'm going to get this great job and it's going to pay everything and be the solution, I think you have to kind of step back and say, what am I really interested in? And personally speaking, I've been interested in like women's issues. I'm interested in finance. I'm interested in global issues. So you kind of, that keeps you going. You know, you will have setbacks, you'll have challenges, but if you've kind of identified what really interests you, you'll kind of be able to pivot and change because you're following your interests. So if you're kind of interested in a certain area, but you don't want to take on a lot of debt, maybe you don't want to go to one of the Ivy Leagues for graduate school, but you'd rather, you know, not have the debt, but find a good, say, state school that is well respected, but less expensive. So I think in light of the pandemic and changed realities, we have an opportunity kind of to rethink, you know, a lot of things, but having conversations like we're having now, I think empowers all of us to kind of say, okay, these are my challenges, like going to a fitness class. I'm glad I have a good teacher. I'm glad I've got a good, you know, fitness class provider. And these are my personal issues, and they'll change over time, but at least you've kind of like plugged into yourself and the journey you're going in. Any other, you know, other people have their thoughts?
I just wanted to say one thing to Hannah. From my own life experience, when I graduated from college, I had a communications degree. So I thought, I'll just walk into a radio station and I'll get a job. That didn't happen. So I finally went to a couple radio stations, and when I just went in, I was so fed up. I said, look, I'll just work for free. I've already graduated, but I need the experience. And from that, I got to be friends with the receptionist who got me a job in advertising. So it just kind of, it was, again, who you know and the experience that I had. Even if it was free, I was working at a record store at night, and going up there during the day, and just, so sometimes education doesn't always mean that you're in a classroom. It's like meeting people and having hands-on. I don't know what your career path is, but sometimes it's just hands-on. So it's just my experience.
So any other comments, questions, suggestions, updates? So I want to then just tell you about, again, next steps and projects. We will send out like an email to everyone who joined us today. So if you have special needs, want to follow up with Chunyee and Susan, you know, you'll be able to do that. Some of you may want to consider a career in finance. You know, there's financial advisors. Chunyee and Susan, you know, can kind of navigate that area, you know, become a financial advisor, inform yourself about financial matters, you know, kind of transition. That's an option that more and more women are doing. Personally speaking, I had a career in like investor relations and financial communications, and I spent so many days at like financial conferences, and I was one of the few women, and you know, we were wined and dined, and I kept thinking like, how come it's only men who get to like talk about these things? I can absolutely guarantee that each of us here will empower ourselves if we consider that part of our job in life is to talk about finances. Do not exclude this area of interest to like other people because you don't feel comfortable. You need, for whatever your particular reasons are, to always bring a financial discussion into your considerations. Just like, you know, going to a exercise class, you must exercise your financial muscles. And it will be a goal of the China U.S. Women's Foundation in the next quarter and the next year to keep repeating that message, because we've experienced collectively a pandemic, and that has wreaked havoc on women. And until we as a group kind of address that in an articulate way, we are not really getting past this phase. So, you know, I want to thank you, Chunyee and Susan. Any last comments before we, you know, call it a day and then, you know, look forward to next meetings in a month's time?
So I can add a little bit to it. I know this is really challenging time for a lot of people. We hope that we have shared some, you know, useful concepts. And if there's any question that you could think of that you think you might be helpful to you, you know, please feel free to reach out, and we could offer a complimentary session with you.
Okay, so thank you everyone for joining us. I had a really good time. I felt good kind of talking to each other. It was kind of more interactive. This program will evolve, it will change, but the focus has been established by you founding members who joined us today. So I really hope that you will continue to be part of it. If you have thoughts and ideas about, you know, what you're interested in, please be in touch with me and Chunyee and Susan. And I look forward to seeing you in future gatherings, both on Zoom and hopefully in person going forward.
Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank
Stay
you.
safe.